Dr. Oz debate just ended. Holy smokes, full-blown 30-car Amtrak derailment for Fetterman. Here he is explaining how he'd handle inflation.
Here's what I think we have to fight about inflation here right now. That's what we need to fight about inflation. Right now, because it's a tax on working families, and Dr. Oz can't possibly understand what that is like.
Oh, it gets better. If that guy's elected senator.
1-2, senator. For senator, not even the House, not even for mayor, for senator.
From the state of Pennsylvania, you'll have real concerns about the system being legitimate. Subscribe to the Fox News YouTube channel to catch our nightly opens, stories that are changing.
You're right.
There's a lot to.
You're right.
There's a lot to cover with.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack with that Fetterman debate. I'm doing a sound check right now. I just have random thoughts, so this could be very scattered. I'll just go through as many thoughts as I have. I have a hard out in a half an hour.
You're right.
There's a lot to cover within these debates. She was fired up in that.
They're really talking about the lockdowns in Michigan because people are accusing Gretchen Whitmer of locking them down too long, our kids out of school too long. In New York, the focus was really on crime. And with Fetterman, because he suffered that stroke about 5 months ago, everyone was tuning in to see if he was going to be able to handle himself properly.
Right, because only one debate. It was last night in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And so much is on the line because statistically they are in a dead heat. And the question was, how would Mr. Fetterman do after having had the stroke? And of course, his campaign came out a couple of days ago and said, don't expect him to do really well because this is Dr. Oz's department. Dr. Oz has been on TV for 20 seasons. He's going to be great. Well, as it turns out, we're going to play you some.
He has the experience. He's lieutenant governor.
Well, yeah, for a term, that's right. And so the big question is, how recovered was he? And this morning, the headlines are not positive for him. He did not do well. It was hard to watch.
What's good? Osiris here, stuck in the middle. Yes, it was hard to watch. And my thought on, I will eat crow. I will fully admit and eat crow. I did not think he was going to go through with the debate because we've been talking about it on the channel. He obviously wasn't ready to do the debate. Everyone who was paying attention knew. And even after the debate, I always have to remind myself, most people don't know what's happening. I use my wife as an example, just as someone in the same house. She didn't see the debate, don't know anything about it. She doesn't know anything about his condition. We don't live in Pennsylvania, but it's opening it up to more people, but still, after the debate, most people probably don't know what condition this dude is in. So for us following it, we knew there's no way they could do this. But now looking back at it, I think it is because I speculated that they're doing it because if he were to win, think about if he were to win. Like, basically, these politicians are selling a product. That's what's happening. And if they sell a product and he wins, what if they say, wait, this isn't what we wanted. We didn't know he was that damaged. That's very possible. So I think that's why they did the interview. The interview with Dasha Burns was to practice. It gave him practice for the debate and to just throw it out there like he's not right. And then when the debate came, it wasn't as shocking to people who are following this because we already saw him in the interview. We knew he wasn't right, but then they're trying to slow roll this thing just in case he wins. So the debate started out very awkwardly. It was one of the worst debates I've ever seen. To me, the whole time, I'm just thinking about Dumb and Dumber. And Dr. Oz, not that Dr. Oz is dumb, but he just didn't resonate. He didn't resonate with me. I think he did the best job that he could provide, and he's just not my type of candidate. And I don't know if it's his delivery. I don't know what it is about him. He is not someone I would ever vote for. So he's like Mitt Romney, but without the polished benefits of Mitt Romney. Like he's not a polished debater. He's not great at articulating his points. He's not strategic with his points. But the biggest takeaway, I want to start with my biggest takeaway is still the transhumanism aspect. And I'll just play this clip real quick. You might have seen the rounds. I'm actually going live later at about 4:30 Mountain Time, 6:30 Eastern. I didn't want to talk about Oz then because I don't think I'll care about it really that passionately. And there's other things I want to talk about later. So I just wanted to get this off my chest. You might have seen a lot of these clips. The reason why I do want to talk about this, though, is not enough people are talking about the transhumanism aspect of this. With what I mean by that is Fetterman needs technology to be able to have a conversation, to be able to debate these issues. And the debate started out pretty bad. The first opening statement of the debate, he had to talk about the elephant in the room, which we all knew. I mean, not everybody, but for those who didn't know, he had to come out and open on it.
And let's also talk about the elephant in the room. I had a stroke. He's never let me forget that. And I might miss some words during this debate, mush two words together, but it knocked me down, but I'm going to keep coming back up. And this campaign is all about, to me, is about fighting for everyone in Pennsylvania that ever got knocked down that needs to get back up, and fighting for all forgotten communities all across Pennsylvania that also got knocked down that needs to get back up.
Thank you.
Okay, so that's he had to address it up front, the elephant in the room, and it never went away. It was the elephant in the room. That when you address the elephant in the room, the hope is that it figuratively gets smaller and smaller and smaller. It only got larger. There's no hiding it. You had people like Joe Scarborough, paraphrasing on Twitter. He was like, "This bruh," I don't even want to paraphrase because I don't want to go too far, but it was not Joe Scarborough did not give a ringing endorsement of John Fetterman on Twitter. And there's a lot of people who came to rally behind him, but that's what he had. He literally had to come out and say, "I'm going to be a mush mouth. I'm not going to be able to communicate to you. I want you to view me as a sick puppy." That's what he wanted to do. He wanted to make sure that you knew, I'm John Fetterman. I'm the cute puppy that you might see on a TV ad. Why would you want to crush me? Dr. Oz going into this, I will give him credit because I thought he might go too aggressively on the health. He didn't go aggressively on the health. He didn't bring it up, not but one. And I had no problem with this he had a little sneak diss in there. I don't have the clip, but he said something to the effect of like, "I know you're having a hard time understanding me, John." And I'll say, I'll give Oz a lot of credit. Because for me, listen, because I went into it saying, "Oz, leave him alone. He's a sick puppy. He's, you heard him here. I'm doing this for everyone who had to be put down and get back up." All that's complete nonsense. If something happens to me or my family, I get brain damage, God forbid, I'm not running for Senate. So I don't relate with you. If you would have dropped out the race, I could relate. But you trying to go to Senate. And so I'm watching it. I'm like, damn, I'm the one that said, don't bring up health. But during the whole debate, I'm thinking like, at some point, I just have to like, if I'm Oz, in my head, I'm like, I don't care if I win or lose. I can't do this anymore. Bruh, how many fingers am I holding up? Don't look at the screen. I want to make sure you don't have an earpiece in. How many fingers am I holding up right now, bruh? What's 2 + 3? I want to do a basic test or I'm not continuing with this debate. That's what was in my head while I was listening to this. Like, I'm not going on the debate stage and debating somebody who has the mind of, I can't even say he has the mind of a kindergartner. It's not even the same thing. He's got a mind of someone who has brain damage. I'm not debating that. Can you pass this basic test for me right now? And that would have been crazy if that actually happened. But I give credit to Oz for not letting it get to that point, a point that I would have probably let it get to be honest with you. The debate opened up very, very awkwardly. This is literally how the debate started.
As lieutenant governor, you're running for a seat that could decide the balance of power in Washington. What qualifies you to be a U.S. senator? You have 60 seconds.
Hi, good night, everybody. I'm running to serve Pennsylvania. He's running to use Pennsylvania.
Now, remember what the question is. We're talking about what makes you qualified. Obviously, it's not command of the English language. What makes you qualify? Why should you be in the Senate? And the reason why everybody in the U.S. is watching this is not just Pennsylvania's. Well, this could be, I mean, you could say that about Arizona or any other one, but it could be the deciding vote between some of the craziest bills that these people want to pass or not. And so why should we choose you?
U.S. Senator, you have 60 seconds.
Hi, good night, everybody.
The live's over. Good night, everybody. We're done. Play the music, cue the music, and end the live. End the debate. That's not how the debate ended. That's how it started. I don't know what he meant. I am going with Tim Pool. I agree 1,000, 1,000,000% with Tim Pool on this. Tim Pool said this is going back to Biden. He said we have to stop. And I didn't think about it like this until he brought it up. That's why I'm bringing him up, to give him credit. Like, this is where I got it from. He said, we have to stop translating or assuming what this bruh is saying. And he was talking about Joe Biden. It's the same, very similar thing here. Joe Biden's not, in my opinion, not all there mentally. Obviously, he's not. We know that pretty much for a fact. We can't translate for these people. We can't allow the press to translate for these people. What they say is what they say, period. And if they need to clean it up, then they need to clean it up. So if you say the wrong country, and I misspeak all the time on lives, I'm not saying I'm perfect. What I'm saying is they are in a position of power. And if they communicate something, we have to take it at face value. And there's no cleanup. That's what he said. When you quote him how he said it. And if it's confusing, then it is what it is. It's up to him and his campaign to clear it up. Maybe after you quote him, you can say, this is what I think he meant, but we should not be making any assumptions with these people. Let me know what you think about that. But the bigger picture of this is the transhumanism issue. That's where I want to go with this now. I did a live a while back where I was like, it was an upload where the algorithm has to be public. I don't know what's happening. So I'm confused as to whether he's using the algorithm or not. If you know, let me know. Because in the Dasha Burns interview, I almost want to find that clip because I don't like just saying stuff without backing it up. I really hate that, but it makes things disjointed sometimes. But Dasha Burns, I don't have it here at my hand here, but in the interview, Dasha Burns said something to the effect of the captioning that he uses rearranges the words in a way that he can understand. So that's not a voice to text captioning. That is some type of algorithm programmed to put words in weird orders because he has something's wrong with his brain, so that he can see it and analyze it and read it. That was my understanding. I don't know if that's true or not. I've got to do more digging into that. That's very important. If it's just voice to text and there's no algorithm involved with it, well, even voice to text is an algorithm, I think. I think whatever technology he's using to understand what we are saying has to be public. I don't care if it's an algorithm or not. If it's not an algorithm, then what I'm saying is the programming behind it. And if the program gets updated, like there's a version 2.0 from 1.0, we need to see the code, like literally the code. So the reason why I say that is I can't read code, but people who can look at it and say, this is what it's supposed to do. It's nothing crazy going on here. It's public property to do whatever the hell the public wants to do with it. Obviously not control it, but to analyze it. There's some type of programming or something going on behind the scenes. I don't know if it's rearranging the words or not. That's an important distinction. Tucker Carlson said it too. Tucker said something to the effect of it's doing something beyond just voice to text. I forgot the verbiage he used. So we don't even know what's happening anymore. We don't know I don't think he had an earpiece in. It didn't look like it to me, and I didn't look at the rules. But we've got to see exactly how he's able to analyze the world. What code is being used to help him analyze the world? That has to be done. So we look at some of the polling and all that afterwards, and I'm going to get to the I'm going to get to the accusations of stuff here now, that there was a accusation from Fetterman, from his camp, that said, whoa, we had delays. We couldn't speak because of the voice to text or whatever it is. I don't even know what it is. He said, I don't know because I can't communicate. I had trouble communicating because of the issues with the voice to text. They blamed it on that. And that is a next level. That's something that has to be addressed. He's running for Senate, and he's basically saying that they said it in an indirect fashion, like he overcame delays in the system. And then the company that did it, I'm going to share the article right here and go over it real quick. This is my biggest takeaway from the debate, because I'm worried about the precedent this sets. Fetterman cites captioning errors. Organizers say he opted out of rehearsal. What are we doing here? So let me make sure this is big enough. So after he had difficulty speaking, I'm reading this via News Nation Now. After he had difficulty speaking during the highly anticipated debate with Mehmet Oz, I always want to say Mehmet Okur. Any basketball fans out there? Mehmet Okur was like a 6'11", 7-foot guy out of Turkey. Turkey. Oz's family's, I believe, from Turkey. He was Mehmet Okur. He played for the Pistons. I used to live out there. He was a good three-point shooter, kind of a fun player to watch, but no Hall of Famer or anything. But Mehmet Oz, the stroke survivors campaign, blamed the captioning system provided for him as being delayed and filled with errors. That we can't be in a position where someone running for Senate does something wrong and blames the captioning. So how do we know there's not a debate on the floor or a bill in front of him and he's like, I blame this piece of technology for me not understanding it? That can't happen. Beyond, I know the voters can say, hey, we're not going to vote you back. Beyond that, we can't have that happen. So what's happening here? Is it with the debate? They were saying that there were people who were transcribing it as it was going live, but I don't know if it was transcribed from them going live into an algorithm which rearranged the words, and then he was able to speak. Now, for me, I didn't want to attack his health, but if he was doing something like that where it rearranged the words for him, I would have to mention it. And I think hopefully it would be graceful, like Carrie Lake, who is very savage and graceful at the same time. I don't think she would have let that go, but she would have had the ability that Dr. Oz doesn't. Even though he's a TV guy, he doesn't come across as a TV presence to me. Carrie Lake, obviously way better TV presence. So he blamed it being delayed. Nextstar's communication chief had to defend it now, said both candidates were given a chance to test the system twice, but Fetterman chose to only do one rehearsal. I don't know what that has to do with it being delayed and filled with errors, though. So now we're in some muddy water where it's like, who are we looking? What is going on now? Like we have to go to the transhumanist technology company to ask them what's going on. It reminds you of the process that we use to choose our officials. It reminds you of that, doesn't it? So who do we need to go to find out what happened? A third-party company with probably proprietary software, not open source. It's the exact same thing. Fetterman's still recovering from a stroke, so they're laying that out for people who weren't aware of that. So let me look at this here, though. So both campaigns agreed to have everything the moderators and Oz said typed out on a large screen by captioners providing live transcriptions. I'm still unclear. Okay, here's a picture of it here where they have, like it says, Mr. Fetterman, specifically what he was saying, referring to the incident in Braddock. Mr. Oz, please, we're still with Mr. Fetterman, turning to you right now. So you see how this is, so you can see this is confusing, even for me, just reading it here, much less the bright lights, you're in a debate, lots going on, you've got your talking points in your head, all that kind of stuff. And he doesn't, so my understanding, Fetterman doesn't even, he can hear, he's not deaf. He can hear what's being said, but he can't process it. So for him to be reading what's happening, that's why he's probably delayed. So is the delay in the system or just the delay in your head? Why not apologize, moderator? Mr. Oz, please, we're still with Mr. Fetterman, turning to you. So why, I don't remember why there are two different screens. What's the difference here? Gosh, this is so insane. So there's more closed captioning here. Thank you, Mr. Oz, turning to you. I have to look into that offline, what's happening there. I don't even know what's going on with the two screens. So the John Fetterman campaign released this. We are thrilled with John's performance. Of course you are. We're thrilled with his performance. He did remarkably well tonight, especially when you consider that he's still recovering from a stroke and was working off delayed. So there is the sneak diss, delayed captions filled with errors. So of course, if you're running the company that's doing that, you're like, whoa, what? Now I'm being blamed for your candidate? That's what politicians do. Remember Ted Cruz went to, was it Mexico when they had the blackout? And it was terrible. He's overcome that now. You know, time kind of heals some of these wounds. But he came back and he was like, my daughter really wanted to go. Politician. And I was like, man, these kids the kids of politicians learn the lesson of politics very early on. You'll throw anybody under the bus. So for me, if my kids were asking to go and I went and I made the mistake, I'm not throwing my kid under the bus. It's just not, I can't be a politician. Y'all are crazy. But they said John won countless exchanges. Absolutely not. Were there any exchanges that he won? No, not a one that I can remember, even though Oz was terrible. Counterpunched aggressively. He was aggressive. I'll give you that. At one point, he interrupted a couple times, and I was like, in my head, I'm like, bro, you can barely answer a question. Don't interrupt me. Like when you put together one coherent sentence, which I don't know if he had one coherent sentence the whole time. When you put together a coherent sentence, then you can interrupt me. That's what I would have said. And I would have got, that wouldn't be the right way. But I just can't do this with you anymore, bro. I'm talking right now. You can't talk. You can't communicate. Don't interrupt me. But he didn't interrupt. And there's times where I was thinking like he's kind of like Fester or just like Andre the Giant, just like I thought he was going to go and just go after Oz. That would have been more effective for him. And they would have taken like 10 security guards to stop him. But he pushed back on Oz's cruelty and attacks. Fetterman for Pennsylvania Communications Director Joe Calvello said. So that was a little sneak diss here. Then they had to respond. They said both candidates were offered the opportunity for two full rehearsals with the same equipment used tonight. Fetterman only did one. In fact, the production team went to extraordinary lengths to ensure the effectiveness of the closed captioning process. Interesting how they say closed captioning process. And to accommodate several last-minute requests. What are those? I'd like to know. The closed captioning process functioned as expected during rehearsal and again during debate. So it is a little weird that they started out with the two full rehearsals. I don't know what that really has to do with their complaints about delays. Maybe you could say the delays were, it sounds to me like they're saying the delays were what they were. We showed you what the delays were going to be. You agreed to the terms. That's why I said I didn't think he was going to debate, but he did. So the fallout from this is crazy. And that's that's just my final take on that's why it's got to be public. It has to be. There's people out here who, my goodness, are throwing their credibility under the bus in order to defend what we saw tonight with Oz. And believe it or not, in another world, Steve Smith was one of my favorite dudes. Steve Smith, John Heiderman, I forget how to pronounce his name. And what was his boy? He got Me Too'd. Somebody, is anybody in the chat? I haven't even looked at the chat. Oh, wow. Sorry, guys. I haven't looked at the chat. Thanks for stopping by. Before we go to Steve Smith, let's see. Fetterman is not the betterman. Dad, thank you for stopping by. Oh, my goodness. Somebody come up in here. Did somebody come up in the chat say vote blue? Is this a joke? Are you trying to troll me? This is not the time. This is not the live for that. I don't know if it's a bot. Patricia, are you in explain yourself? I don't, if you disagree, fine. You don't have to articulate this. What is this? I'm now just looking at the chat because I've got a hard out in a little bit. Just wanted to get through some of these thoughts. Patricia Pope, what's going on? I'm fine with voting blue but number one, there's no blue person running or in DC that is against money to Ukraine. So I'm out. If you are for money to Ukraine, I'm out. That goes to a Boldock or anybody. I don't care who you are. If you purport yourself to be MAGA and you support money to Ukraine, I'm out on you. So I don't know what that is. This is the wrong time. This is the wrong time for the vote blue to talk. That's not what I'm not against it, but that's not what was going on right now. Dan Plemick said, I should have hit that dude with some stingers. It's so hard. I said going in, Oz shouldn't do that because Oz is not likable. Carrie Lake is likable, and she can do it in a gracious way. Carrie Lake just had a diss on Katie Hobbs where she was like, she literally was like, I don't want to be mean to Katie Hobbs. I think she did good work. I'm paraphrasing. She did good work as a social worker. And I fully support her in that role going forward. So savage and so well done. Like when she did that to that one reporter that rolled up to her and she said she wanted an interview. And then Carrie Lake was like, we're on CNN Plus. That's why I don't want to get too sidetracked. She's just too much right now. But yeah, she would have done that. Fetterman is not the better man. I didn't read that right. Max Headroom presented. We're in a place, thanks Isaac. We're in a place where we have Max Headroom, and Isaac, you're dating you and me because these Zoomers don't know what the hell Max Headroom is, or it was Headroom, right? I forgot you even forgot what it was. That's from like the 80s, bruh. How overcame the caption arrows? What a hero! Yeah, he overcame the caption arrows. Wow, what a hero! That's what they're trying to say. No, literally, that's what they're trying to do. Bishop, thanks for stopping by. Damn, I step away from politics for a few months and come back to the Democrats pushing a mentally handicapped candidate for Senate. It's a legitimate statement. And then people defending it. Vote red. I'm not for voting red either, but that makes way more sense than voting blue. I'm very particular about who I'm voting for right now. Bishop, vote blue no matter who. If you like poo in your stew. Y'all got bars today. Casual Ghost, I haven't talked to you in a minute. Casual Ghost says Fetterman is the Goblin King. Friend of show, Casual Ghost, I hope you've been doing well. Nice to see you, man. But Steve Smith, believe it, in another life, I like Steve Smith. I will fully admit where I was and where I am now, two different places. Steve Smith tweets, here is the major difference between John Fetterman and Dr. Oz. Dr. Oz has never suffered. He hasn't, not for a second. He is someone who figured out how to get rich on other people's suffering. He's never been hit and never been hurt. He has never had to stand up after being down. And my reply to that is, Steve is defending someone running for Senate that we don't know if he can add 2 + 2. Why would somebody like Steve Smith sacrifice his credibility? Is there anything you can believe? If anybody watches that debate and comes away with the take like, I'm not saying you have to support Oz. Please stay with me. For some of these people who are slow, not you in the chat, you guys are with me here. Even if you agree or disagree, you understand what I'm saying. For those who are smooth-brained, I'm not saying vote for Oz. I'm saying Fetterman is unqualified. That has nothing to do with Oz. Now, you might use that as an excuse because that's what you did to get weekend at Brandon's across the finish line against Trump. You said, well, Trump is whatever you labeled him, so I have to vote for a guy who's basically in his basement. But that doesn't mean he's qualified or fit. And that's obviously a matter of opinion, but it's clear. You can't come back from these type of takes. There's no, I was wrong about Fetterman. No, you were disingenuous. So my question for Steve is there some type of force you're privy to coming that will compel us to listen to people like you? Do you follow what I'm saying here? These takes are so cringe. The Democrat Party is going through cringe takes from gender affirming care to race discussions. These are takes you cannot go back on. So you're going on these takes that you lose complete credibility. Nobody cares what you have to say about Trump or anybody else after you have ridiculous takes like this. Dr. Oz has never suffered. What does that have to do with Fetterman's performance? So when you have ridiculous takes like this, you can't come back from them. Does Steve Smith, if you know who he is, these pundits, very aggressive pundit. I've always liked him. He's entertaining, but very aggressive very, very aggressive pundit, as aggressive as you can get to be on mainstream TV. And he was with the Lincoln Project people, all that. When you take these positions you can't backtrack on, does it seem do these seem like people who are going to fade away into the sunset as the Democrat? That's what we're watching, the Democratic Party fade away and just end as an entity. Do you think they're just going to go away? No, I'm just curious. Maybe it's just my paranoia. I'm wondering if there is some type of, I don't know what the force would look like that they know we're going to fall back on. I've drained my credibility to zero, like it's a Mega Man in a video game. I have no life. So I'm like on my last life, like you play Mega Man, you get hit once, you're done. So is there a force field coming? Is there something that they know about that we don't know about? That's my question. Dr. Oz, I want to make sure I talk about Dr. Oz real quick. Dr. Oz had a moment where they were talking about inflation, and Fetterman's talking point on inflation is the same. You watch any Fetterman interview, his answers are exactly the same. Many politicians are, but his answers are exactly the same. Like before Fetterman answered, I already, in my head, was like, I already know his answer. He's literally off a script, basically, just a memorized script. But that's why he had some problems with some of the questions in there, because it was a little bit off his script. So he has to figure out, when you talk about the tax issue, which script does that go to, all that kind of stuff. When he was asked about, I think he was asked about inflation, he didn't really answer the question because he just went to a script. But Oz, Fetterman attacked Oz on his mansions, which Fetterman always does. And instead of Oz, J.D. Vance was so good at this. He addressed it and then just for like a second and then moved on. So Oz took his rebuttal and the whole time was defending his mansions and didn't get to attacking Biden on, tying Fetterman to Biden and attacking them on inflation. So he just made a lot of missteps. I can't believe they debated. I think that Rob Case, is it Rob Case, the Senator Rob Case, defended Fetterman. So what you see was Steve Smith and then Rob Case, I believe he's the other senator for Pennsylvania. I don't know much about him. I was reading articles on this, and he defended Fetterman. What you're seeing from guys like Steve Smith and I think it's Rob Case for Penn Senate, anyone defending Fetterman, what you're seeing is that they answer to someone other than common people. That's what's really being highlighted here. If you answer to common people, you don't tell common people that Fetterman is okay. If you answer to corporate interests that have interests, or whoever has interest in Fetterman going to DC to vote the way they want him to vote, then you say, well, don't worry about that. He's overcoming stuff. He'll be okay in January, or whatever spin you want to make. The damage and the fallout was huge. The damage and fallout was huge. We saw polling from I think it was from the TV network, that showed that those watching the debate went hard, over 80% towards Fetterman. I'm going to show the debate kind of picture here, post-debate analysis, then I'll be out. Interactive polls, new WPXI online poll. Who won the Pennsylvania Senate debate? Mehmet Oz, 82% said that he won the debate. Fetterman, 18%. And who knows if they hired people to do come in and do the polling and respond to it. Heck of a swing. Friend of show, I don't know if he was able to see it because he doesn't do Twitter too much, but Will Cormier, I at him. The betting odds swung huge after this debate towards Oz. I'm going to end with this. I said that, and I'm being somewhat facetious, but this is the big takeaway, or the big end on the debate for me. I would vote for one of Cassandra McDonald's monkeys for Senate over Oz or Fetterman. I'm glad I was able to get that off my chest so I can be out. When I come back, 4:30, The big topic at 4:30 for me right now is Nick Rekieta came out with a video detailing what happened with him getting banned and coming back. And I have not talked about the Keffels thing. It is one of the biggest things that happen in our country. What I really want to do with the channel, I really like talking about things that don't get highlighted that I think should. Don't miss that. I'm going to go to if you miss it, go to middlemaga.com. After it's done, I'll post the link on there. So if you don't know about the website, middlemaga.com, I got a link to our Discord. I got a link to the shop. If you missed the live later on, I'm going to post it up here. And yeah, it's just right on the homepage. You can just play it and listen to it from there. You got the shop over here. It is the Civil War is an informational propaganda one. And what happened with Keffels and the Kiwi Farms, Rekieta Law, that is representative of the Civil War. Same with the Amber Heard stuff that got LawTube involved with it. And I'm telling you, they caused some damage. LawTube didn't cover the Alex Jones trial really well, except for, the guys I like, Viva, Barnes, Nick. And they went to attack that group because they were getting too strong, too powerful. And I think it's become effective. And it's all hiding behind this particular identity that you can't really have a open discussion about. So that's going to be the highlight of the live, and then maybe some other stuff as well. So come back 4:30 Mountain, 5:30 Central, 6:30 Eastern. Appreciate y'all. Take care.